My younger daughter gave my mom her spelling bee award with a huge smile. "I saved this just for you." But my mom just ripped it in half and said, "You can't earn love with paper," like it was trash. My older daughter exploded. "Why do you always treat her like nothing?" I don't even know how to start this, but I've been sitting with this lump in my throat for hours now. Watching my daughter's face go from proud to shattered in a matter of seconds, it broke something in me. And I guess I just need to put this somewhere. I have two daughters. My oldest is 14. Quiet, thoughtful, the kind of kid who picks up on everything and holds it in. The peacekeeper. My youngest is 7, loud in the best way. She laughs with her whole body, hugs like her life depends on it, and still believes the world is mostly good. My mom lives nearby. She's complicated. She's one of those people who acts sweet in public, but behind closed doors, she's sharp. Not loud, not yelling, just cold, dismissive, little jabs that make you second-guess yourself. My whole childhood was walking on eggshells around her. But she's their grandma, and for the longest time, I let her be in their lives because I thought maybe she'd soften with age. Maybe grandkids would bring out something in her that I never got to see. I was wrong. Anyway, here's what happened. My youngest had her school's spelling bee last week. She studied for weeks. Flashcards, practice tests, reading books she couldn't even pronounce at first just to get better. She was so nervous the morning of the bee, but she pushed through. And she won. First place. She clutched that little paper certificate like it was gold. When I picked her up, she said, "I'm gonna give this to Grandma. I saved it for her." I asked her why, and she just smiled and said, "Because she always looks sad. Maybe this will make her happy." God, that should have told me everything I needed to know. But I still drove them over to my mom's house that afternoon. We walk in, and my youngest is beaming, like she's glowing from the inside out. She skips up to my mom, holds out the certificate with both hands like she's giving her a treasure, and says, "Grandma, I saved this just for you." My mom looks down at the paper, fake smiles, and I mean fake, like her mouth moved but her eyes didn't, and she goes, "You can't earn love with paper." Then she tore it. Right down the middle. Ripped it in half like it was junk mail, and tossed it in the trash without even blinking. The room went dead silent. My youngest just stood there, like her brain couldn't even catch up to what just happened. She looked from the trash can to my mom, like maybe this was a joke, maybe she didn't see it right. I started to step in. I swear to God I was about to lose it. But before I could even open my mouth, my oldest stepped forward. This girl, this quiet, keep the peace, don't make waves kid, just snapped. "No, Grandma. You don't get to do that, not this time." Her voice wasn't loud, but it hit hard. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't crying. She just sounded done. My mom rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, please, it's a piece of paper. Don't be so dramatic." But my daughter didn't back down. She took a step closer. "She's 7, Grandma. She worked her butt off for that spelling bee every night. She skipped TV. She studied when she was tired. And she didn't win that award for herself. She gave it to you because she still thinks you're someone worth loving." My mom scoffed and looked over at me like, "Are you gonna say something?" I couldn't. I looked at my youngest and she had tears in her eyes, but she hadn't moved. Still standing there, still trying to make sense of it. Her little hands just kind of hanging at her sides like she didn't know what to do with them anymore. And then my oldest, God, I didn't even know she had this in her, reached into the trash can and pulled out the 2 torn pieces of the certificate. She looked at them, then turned to her sister and said, "Come on. Let's go frame it just like this. You'll remember this forever, not because of what she did, but because you earned this. And she can't take that away." My mom muttered something under her breath, something like "so sensitive," but no one was listening to her anymore. I took both girls by the hand and we walked out. We didn't say goodbye, we didn't look back, and I haven't answered her calls since. We didn't talk much in the car on the way home. The radio was off. The only sound was the soft, tearing sound of my youngest crying into her sleeve. My oldest just stared out the window, holding the 2 torn pieces of that damn certificate like they were a flag from a battlefield. I drove with both hands tight on the wheel, jaw locked so hard it hurt. I didn't even realize I was shaking until we pulled into the driveway. I tucked the girls inside, told them I'd be right in, then I sat in the car with the engine off and stared out at nothing. My mom had always been cold, always petty, but this was a new low. And part of me kept thinking, why didn't I stop her sooner? Why did I keep giving her chances? And then came the knock. Not on my car window. On my front door, I rushed in and found my mom standing on the porch, arms crossed, face stiff. "I want to talk," she said. I blocked the doorway. "Now's not the time." She pushed past me like she owned the place. Walked right into my living room like she had every right. My girls were still sitting on the couch, red-eyed, clutching each other. My mom saw them, rolled her eyes, and muttered, "Oh, for God's sake, don't tell me we're still crying about that stupid paper." That was it. I stepped between her and the girls and said, "Get out." But she didn't leave. She sat down in the recliner like this was her house. And then she started talking. "You think I'm the bad guy," she said, arms flailing. "I'm trying to toughen them up. The world doesn't hand out medals for every little thing. You're raising them to be weak." My oldest stood up, shaky but steady. "No, Grandma. You broke something, and now you're trying to act like it didn't happen." My mom snapped her head toward her and hissed, "Watch your tone." "You watch your actions," my daughter fired back. I've never been more proud and more afraid in the same second, but I backed her up. I turned to my mom and said, "You don't get to speak to them like that, not anymore." She laughed. "Don't flatter yourself. You were just like them, soft, always needing validation. That's why you turned out like this, weak, single, clinging to little moments like they mean something." She said that, in front of my kids. I stood there, stunned, my fists clenched. I could feel my face burning. But before I could say a word, my youngest, my sweet, soft-spoken 7-year-old, whispered something that stopped the whole room. "I don't want her to be my grandma anymore." Silence. Even my mom paused. For a second, then she scoffed and said, "You don't get to decide that." My oldest stepped forward. "Maybe she does, because family isn't just blood, it's how you treat people. And you treat us like trash." I walked over, opened the front door, and said, "Out, now." She stared at me like she didn't believe I'd actually do it, but I didn't blink. Finally, she stood. "You're going to regret this." I didn't say anything. I just held the door open and watched her walk out, but that wasn't the end. A few days passed. The air in our house got a little lighter. The girls seemed more at ease. We framed the torn certificate like my oldest said, hung it in the hallway. My youngest looks at it every morning before school now. She doesn't smile yet, but she doesn't cry either. Then, one morning, there was a letter in the mailbox. No return address, just my name in that sharp handwriting I'd know anywhere. Inside was a folded-up photo. Me, maybe 12 years old, holding a second-place ribbon at some school contest. My face was swollen from crying. My mom stood next to me in the photo, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. Taped to the back of the photo was a note. "Still think you were any different?" No apology, no explanation, just a reminder. That's when I knew this wasn't about the spelling bee. This wasn't about the paper. My mom wanted to hurt my daughter because someone had hurt her. And now, all these years later, she was still passing it down like it was some kind of curse. And I was done letting her. But then came the twist I didn't see coming. My aunt, my mom's sister, called me out of nowhere. I hadn't spoken to her in years. She sounded nervous, kept clearing her throat. "I heard what happened," she said, "and there's something you need to know." She paused. "She did the same thing to me, when I was your daughter's age. Only it wasn't a spelling bee. It was my music recital. I practiced for 6 months. I played my heart out, came home and gave her the ribbon. She looked me dead in the eye and said, 'You'll never be good enough.' And then she burned it in the ashtray." My chest tightened. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "I didn't think you'd believe me," she said. "No one ever did." She took a breath. "There's more. I think she did it to all of us." And that's when it hit me, this wasn't just my story. This was a chain. A long, rusted chain of hurt that started way before me. And if I didn't break it now, my daughters might grow up one day and find themselves doing the same thing, without even realizing it. But the part that scares me the most? My mom's not finished. I can feel it. Something's coming. I don't know what it is yet, but I know her. She doesn't walk away from control without a fight. And I've got 2 daughters who finally stood up to her. There's no way she's letting that go. A week passed. No word from my mom. No calls, no texts. Just that photo in the mail like a warning shot. But I knew her silence wasn't peace, it was planning. She doesn't explode. She waits, finds the cracks, slips through. She's a slow burn kind of person. Always was. I started checking the mail every day like I was looking for a bomb. My daughters were doing better. My youngest had started drawing again, mostly rainbows, sometimes weird little monsters with sharp teeth, but it was better than silence. My oldest was quieter than usual, though. She was watching everything. Sitting in the hallway at night, listening, checking the locks twice before bed. She didn't say it, but I knew she was waiting for my mom to show up again, too. And then it happened. Not a letter this time, a voicemail from the school. They said someone had called claiming to be my daughter's legal guardian and asked for their school records, class schedules, pickup times, even the list of emergency contacts. The school didn't give out any info, thank God, but they flagged it and called me right away. I asked if the person gave a name. They said the caller ID came through as private. But the voice. The front desk lady was pretty sure it was an older woman. Sharp, cold, pushy. I didn't have to ask twice. I knew. My stomach dropped. I called my mom. No answer. I texted her. If you ever call their school again, we're done for real. Do not test me. No reply. But 2 hours later, a new message came through, this time from an unknown number. All it said was, "You're not fit to raise them." That's when I knew she was trying to come for custody. And the thing is, she might have a case. Back when I got divorced 3 years ago, I went through a bad stretch. Depression, anxiety, couldn't hold a job for a bit. My mom helped pay for groceries sometimes. She watched the girls a few weekends when I was too out of it to move. I thought she did it out of love, but now I see she was collecting leverage. If she filed some kind of complaint, brought up my past, yeah. She could make my life hell. She always knew how to hit where it hurts. I called my aunt again. She answered fast this time. "I think she's trying to take the girls," I told her. There was a pause. Then she said, "You need to go into her house." "What?" "She keeps everything. Notes, pictures, receipts. She has boxes in the back room. I saw them once. If she's planning something, it's in there." "I'm not breaking into her house. She never locks the side window." I didn't respond right away. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. "She did this to me, too, when I was 19. Tried to get custody of my son, said I was too emotional, said I wasn't stable. I had to move across the country to get away." I had no idea. No one ever talked about it. My family's good at hiding things. So that night, when I knew my mom would be at her weekly church bingo thing, I drove over, parked down the block, wore gloves, hoodie up. I wasn't proud of it, but I was desperate. The side window slid up just like my aunt said. I slipped inside, heart pounding so hard I thought it would shake the walls. Everything looked the same. Pristine, cold, fake flowers on the table, old clock ticking loud. That damn cross above the fireplace like she was some kind of saint. I went to the back room, boxes, just like my aunt said, labeled, sorted, perfectly neat. One said Court 2006. Another said Lena Private. Lena's my aunt. But then I found one that made my skin crawl. It was labeled with my youngest daughter's name. Inside were drawings, school notes, printouts from my Facebook, screenshots from my Instagram, copies of emails I'd sent her years ago, ones where I'd apologized for not being present during my rough patch. Notes I'd written when I was in therapy. Even a photo of me sleeping on the couch with an empty wine glass next to me. She'd been collecting evidence, building a case. Quietly, patiently. But that wasn't even the worst part. At the bottom of the box was a folder marked letters. Inside were typed pages, all from her, all written like journal entries or statements. One was titled, "Why I Fear for My Granddaughter's Safety." She described me like I was a danger. Said I was mentally unstable. Claimed my oldest showed signs of emotional abuse and that my youngest was withdrawn and possibly neglected. It was all lies, twisted half-truths, but put together on paper, it looked convincing. I started shaking. And then I heard it. Keys in the front door. I froze. She was early. I had maybe 10 seconds. I shoved the folder into my coat, climbed back out the window, and ran down the street without looking back. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I drove to a lawyer. And now, I'm in the middle of something I never thought I'd have to face. My mom, my own mother, is preparing to go to court to try and take my kids. And she's been planning it for years. But I've got something now. And I'm not staying quiet anymore. I've seen the kind of damage she can do when no one believes you, and I'll be damned if my girls end up like me. I didn't tell the girls what I found, not right away. They didn't need that weight. What they did notice was the change in me. I stopped second-guessing myself. I started locking everything down. New passwords, cameras on the house, daily check-ins with the school. I documented everything, Dates, times, screenshots, I learned fast. The lawyer was blunt. "She's dangerous," he said after reading the papers I took from her house. "But she's also sloppy. She kept records she never should have." That was the first crack. A week later, I got served. Official papers, family court. She was filing for emergency custody, claiming emotional abuse and neglect. Seeing my name on that paper like I was some monster made me sick. I cried in the bathroom at work, alone, shaking like I was back in my worst days. That was my karma. I had ignored the warning signs for years. I had let her into my kids' lives knowing what she was capable of. That guilt hit harder than anything. But guilt doesn't win court cases. Truth does. We went to court 3 weeks later. She walked in dressed like a saint, soft sweater. Cross necklace, sad eyes, she even brought cookies for the bailiff. People like her know how to play a room. I almost laughed, almost. When it was her turn to speak, she cried. Talked about concern, about how she feared for her grandbabies. She brought up my divorce, my depression, that one photo of me asleep with a wine glass. She painted me like a ticking bomb. Then my lawyer stood. He didn't start with me, he started with her. He showed the judge the box, the labeled folders, the years of notes, the fake reports, the letters describing me as unfit before anything had ever happened, before the spelling bee, before the fight. Proof that this wasn't concern, it was a plan. Then came the witnesses. My aunt went first. She told her story, the burned recital ribbon, the custody threat, the years of silence because no one believed her. She cried, but she didn't break. Then my cousin, then another relative, story after story, same pattern, same words, same cruelty. The judge's face changed. Then came the moment I'll never forget. The judge asked my oldest if she wanted to speak. I didn't expect her to say yes, but she did. She stood there, hands shaking, voice steady. "She doesn't love us," she said. "She wants to control us. She hurt my sister on purpose. And she's been hurting people her whole life." The room was silent. My mom didn't cry then. She was angry. And that's when she messed up. She snapped, raised her voice, called my daughter ungrateful, said kids shouldn't speak against elders, said she knew what was best. The mask slipped. The judge didn't even let her finish. Emergency custody request denied. Restraining order granted. No contact with me or my children. Mandatory evaluation ordered psychological. But the real karma came later. See, my lawyer didn't stop there. Those documents she kept, some of them involved other people. False statements. Attempts to interfere with custody years ago. Letters sent to employers. Lies that cost people jobs and homes. It went beyond family court. There was an investigation. Turns out she'd done this before. Not just to family, to neighbors, to coworkers, to anyone who crossed her. She lost her standing at church. Lost friends who finally saw her for who she was. Lost control. And the last twist, that photo she sent me, the one from my childhood, I brought it to therapy, talked about it, sat with it. And for the first time, I didn't feel shame. I felt clarity. I wasn't weak. I was surviving. I cut contact fully, changed numbers, moved, fresh start. My daughters are safe, healing, laughing again. The certificate is still on the wall, torn, framed, real. As for me, I live with the weight of knowing I waited too long. That's my karma. But I'm carrying it differently now, not as punishment, but as a promise. The chain ended with me, and she'll never touch them again.